Good day today. We're going to be talking about if you knew that you were not going to fail, what would you do differently in life? Because if you had that safety net, like sky's the limit here on Chit Chat and Chill. Welcome back to Chit Chat and Chill. I am Lora Fickett, your co-host. I own Fickett Financial Education and Business Coaching, where I love to help people make more money, manage it better, and retain it to build wealth. What does that mean? If you are frustrated with your finances, pick up the phone, call Fickett, and we will have a little chat and see how I can help relieve some of the stress and get you on the path to wealthiness. But before we get started completely on our topic, I want to introduce Antoinette.
Hello, I'm Antoinette. I'm the owner of Pixel This, a full-service design firm. So, gosh, I've done anything from buses to actually postage stamps, which apparently are under lock and key by the government.
They should be. They're like $1,000 a stamp.
It's a currency, yeah. But I have experience in all sorts of different types of businesses and services. So give us a call and we could discuss your needs and how to reach the audience you're trying to, more importantly. But today's topic, I think, is interesting. It got me thinking a lot. And for one, I'd probably enter every contest. If I knew I couldn't fail, it'd be like a lottery ticket or like the one thing I never enter, because to me, I just never saw it as a positive thing, is those 50-50 raffles.
Yeah, I know. I don't enter those either. But that's not, like failing to me, I was thinking about it, like what changes would I actually make? Like, would I buy certain investment properties, or would I have left like public accounting earlier to start my business, that kind of stuff? I didn't think of it like as a win, like, sure, if you could win everything, like you would buy lottery tickets every day, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a cardboard, like people call them cardboard crack. Probably.
Cardboard. What is that? I never heard that.
You never heard cardboard crack?
No.
Because like people get like really addicted to buying lottery tickets.
Oh, and I get it. Okay.
And it's cardboard.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're a cardboard cracker, sorry. Oh, that sounds even worse.
Yeah. Let's just say you buy lottery tickets.
I buy one occasionally because I'm like, I don't ever want to make it to heaven and God be like, I would have given you millions of dollars in the lottery if you just would have played.
Yeah.
And people are like, you just buy one. I'm like, that's really all it takes, right?
Yeah.
If God wants it to win, then so like maybe twice a year I'll pop in and I'll buy one, but I don't buy them all the time. And as a financial coach, I highly discourage other people. If you want to buy something that used to be like on a piece of paper, they don't give you them anymore. Buy stock. They used to have pretty stocks. But I think like if you knew that you wouldn't fail at all, like how many different decisions in life would you make? Like if you don't love your job, you would leave, right? Because the reason why you don't leave is you think you're not going to be able to find something else. You're going to fail in like a business venture. A lot of people would start businesses. Like people would, and I think people would enter into relationships more freely too if they knew. I think one of the reasons why people have such a hard time getting together is because of the fear of rejection, the fear of incompatibility. Like, but if you knew, like, okay, if I go on a date, I'm not going to fail. Like, everything's going to go well. Then I think people would be more open to go out and try certain things too, especially like sports. And, I talk to a lot of people about horseback riding. I love horseback riding. My daughter's horseback ride. And people are like, oh, it's kind of dangerous. And I'm like, yeah, but driving the car to horseback riding is more dangerous than actual horseback riding, right? Because of that amount of car accidents. But if you knew that you weren't going to fail, that if you were going to succeed and be a great rider, I think a lot of people would try different sports and activities. It's the fear of failure that prevents us from doing all kinds of things.
Yeah, you kind of brought up two things. So when I was thinking of like, what would I do if I couldn't fail? So that you kind of merged. My second one that I was thinking of was I'd ask Tom Brady to marry me. So that's sports and love.
Oh. Tom Brady, if you're listening, Antoinette's on the lookout.
Yeah, you're my type.
I think he's a lot of people's type.
Yeah. But no, but that was another thing. But I know like growing up, it was kind of weird because I was the last one of a family that was kind of an accident. So I never really got the typical encouragement or people showing up at sporting events or anything.
Or them remembering your name.
Yes, things like that. Well, that finally got cured about 8 years ago. But it was one of those things that I always kind of felt like everybody just went, you can't do that or you can't. So I was always just poo-pooed with anything I did. So I never really cared about, I don't know, like I would just go for things pretty freely. And if I failed, I failed. Nobody seemed to be paying attention to me anyway. So, but I found because of that, I became very resilient and I'm very independent and more of a go-getter than I think most people are. And if somebody ever like knocked me, like, you can't do that, I'll be like, oh yeah, watch me. And it was more of like I never used, if somebody said I couldn't do it, I would use it more of as a motivator than a demotivator, be like, oh, they're right, you know?
There's this great quote, and I apologize. You'll have to look it up on the internet who said it. It's somebody famous that's not alive right now, but it went something like this: like success is going from failure to failure without losing any enthusiasm. And it's totally true because like I remember I've read all kinds of scenarios where you have to have these failures in order to lead to success. All the inventions that we have today, there's so many, like hundreds, thousands of things that didn't work. And every time something didn't work, they would tweak it and then they would tweak it and then they would tweak it. They had all these failures that led up to success. And so I think failure is an important part of the process. And not that I want to fail, but since I understand that I'm going to fail, I just accept it and I move on faster. So I think if you can somehow get right with failure or like appreciate that it's helping you move further and
Yeah.
further along in the process, then you really can live your life with that feeling of like, no matter what, I'm going to succeed. Instead of like, we're joking here on the podcast. Like if you knew you wouldn't fail, that's impossible. Let's face it, it's possible. You're going to fail, but if you knew that regardless of how many failures you had, you would eventually succeed, I think that's where people
Yeah.
you need to appreciate the failure, right?
Yeah.
Like I did have a failed marriage, so I'm on my second marriage, but like my husband and I now, like we get into it sometimes, it's not like all smooth sailing, like walking through the tulips, but like, I mean, it's so fantastic. If I had let that first failure prevent me from finding love again, like I would have lost out on so much happiness and another child and like all kinds of other things.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they think success and failure are like two opposites, and they're
No, they're
really not.
together.
They are, because failure is part of success. And without the failures, you're really not succeeding. I think it's one of those, even like if you notice even things that come to you harder or a little bit you value more. If something is just so easy, it's almost like it loses kind of its integral value or something. And I think the problem is you got to make sure that you dream big or your goals are big enough that it's worth those failures. I think a lot of people dream small and they aim, just short, or they're trying to fulfill somebody else's goals for their life. And the sad thing is if they actually get to there and then they realize it's so unfulfilling. Like when you're really reaching for something to strive and a goal, it should be something that means something inside your heart that you really, want to achieve. And even with anything, I think the process is sometimes more fun than when you finally when you finally get there. Like you have all these stories and things like that, like all those funny things that you talk about over dinner. It's never like, oh, and then I got to the top of Mount Everest and yay. It's, wow, I was going over this rock and those are where the interesting
Walking
things
over
happen.
the man with the green boots. To get to Everest. What the funny thing is like I I know there's all kinds of new professions as we're in 2026, and I'm planning a vacation right now to Italy with my family, and like I know that potentially like I have travel agents. I have one that I really adore, and I would love to use her, but part of the fun of our travel is the 4-6 months leading up to travel where we're all talking together and researching things and planning things. Yeah, I mean, there is some convenience to just have somebody plan it all out for you and go there and everything goes smooth sailing. But I don't know. I do think like if we go there and we plan things that don't work out and we fail a little bit, like I think that's part of the fun. I really
Yeah.
do. Like I think people are so afraid of failing. Like just enjoy failing as long as the failure doesn't lead to death. As long as it's not like a final failure,
Oh.
like
Like there's that say, what is it? Like if at first you don't succeed, don't try skydiving.
Yeah, I mean, take the precautions, right? Like, don't punch holes in your parachute.
Yeah.
But I do think what you touched upon is that, like, if you're trying to succeed for somebody else's, like, enjoyment or whatever, and then a failure happens, I think people use that failure as, like, oh, well, I don't want to do it anyway. Yeah, like, you
Yeah.
didn't want to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because the people that, if you ever watched Finding Nemo, there's a fish in there, and she's like, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. I coach people on that all the time. Like, just keep going. Like, you fail, okay, now bounce back like higher and harder and just keep going. And so, if you had that mentality of basically like, even if I fail, I'm going to succeed in the end, is more along the lines of the topic that we were, I think, going for. Like, what would you do? Because really, in my opinion, God does have your back if it's in your best interest. If it's not in your best interest, he's not going to lead you into a deep, dark pit of snakes,
No. No.
So, but what would you do differently if you're sitting here right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I would start the business that I've always wanted to start. I would start it on the side. Like, you don't have to like quit tomorrow your job and start it on the side. I help people start businesses on the side all the time to easily transition. Like if you're like, I've always wanted to buy a plane. I had a client that said to me, I've always wanted to buy a plane. I've always wanted to own one. And I'm like, have you ever even tried flying lessons? And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, no. So he tried flying lessons. He hated it. And so like we knocked that off the list. But like, just go.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't fail
No, but
in the flying lesson. Like,
But it is
that would be pretty bad.
No, but it is one of those things. I think when you get to the later years of your life, people regret the things they didn't do, not the things they did do and failed, because a lot of times, too, it's you're led or have an inkling to do a certain thing for a reason. Maybe you're supposed to meet a certain thing or pave the way for something else. But it's one of those. The only true failure is giving up. Honestly, I mean, that's what failure is. I've done things that they didn't have the outcome that I anticipated, but that's not failure. Failure is just going, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going to giving up your dream is what I see as failure. But
I mean, realistically, like I talked about, my second marriage, and you could look at the first one as being like, oh, she failed. But I coach a lot of people in divorce now. And so without that experience, I wouldn't be able to relate to them as well.
yeah.
So yeah, what looks like a failure really has helped my career in that I'm able to relate to a lot of people in divorce and how that affects their finances and all kinds of other stuff. So really your perspective has a big part in how you look at the failure or the setback.
Yeah. And I
but
think so
people
many
people need to stop living in fear.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what it boils down to is kind of like we talked about a different episode, the fear-based or faith-based mindset. And
Absolutely.
if you're making decisions, on that. But in relationships, I see so many times where, there'll be someone who really has an affinity for somebody and they like them and they'll think about them all the time and whatever, but they never get the courage to ask them out or never get the courage to make it known their feelings. And then like decades will go by and then they'll be talking and they both had that. And they could have had totally different lives. They could have been happy together. And instead they both have like 2 failed marriages and this, it just, I hear it all the time and it's such a shame. And a lot of times people think, well, what if she says
It's a
no?
failure.
Yeah. Or even like, I know my mom's a big worrier and she'll say something like, well, do me a favor this, do me a favor that. And I think people are so consumed by worry that I'll say to my mom, like, okay, let's circle back. What's the worst thing that can happen? And if you actually come from that mindset, okay, worst thing, I ask this person out and they say no. Like, I mean, in the end, but think of all the things. Yeah.
Then you shouldn't pine over them anymore.
Yeah. At least then you could move on. Maybe then you'll meet somebody else instead of wasting years and years and weeks over this situation. But a lot of times if you just go, what's the worst case scenario? And it's whatever, it's it's not even all that bad if you think about it. Okay, so let's say I don't know, this happens and I crash and burn. Well, whatever. You got to realize not every, like.
I mean, not really she burns. Like
No, but then I die and I go to heaven. I'm with Jesus.
yeah,
like
that's true.
if that's the worst case, look what happens. I'm with Jesus, living out eternity a couple years
laughing at me.
But it's one of those.
You still have to be on earth suffering through traffic.
No, but it's one of those, like, if you have faith that there's, you know what I mean? You'll approach things differently. And when you think about it, like as a child or as a baby, a lot of these fears aren't ingrained in us. The only thing is, I would say, probably like of loud noises where it might scare an animal or person. That's not necessarily something like that. But when it's like talking in public, these are all self-induced fears,
a lot of people have a talking in public fear. I don't even understand.
I don't have that
Groups
either.
And everything like that.
Like, I've embarrassed myself completely multiple times.
No. So I can't see that about you.
I'm like, and I know people all the time, they're like, such and such, you did this, or such and such saw this. And I'm like, so, like, whatever. If I'm not your cup of tea, then whatever.
Really, the worst thing that can happen is somebody recorded it and they play it over and over and over again.
Oh, I've had that at cousin parties.
Yeah.
Look at these pictures. Like, no.
Whatever. But a week later, they're on to something else. So
yeah.
Who cares? Like, who cares? But in the scenario of, like, if you're afraid to say right now you like somebody and you're afraid to ask them out on a date, wouldn't you rather know, like, today whether the answer is yes or no, and you can move forward with that information? If it's yes, you can see where the relationship goes. If it's no, you can next, like, move on, rather than spending like a month or a year with this anxiety, like trying to figure it out. And then imagine if you waste a whole like year and then the person says no, you might have missed, like, somebody might have walked by you that was your perfect match.
And a lot of times I find people hold on to stuff, and even just the act of saying it out loud to the person that you're supposed to say it to is a relief. And their decision, I mean, obviously you'd want it to go the way you're hoping, but even no is almost like, I'm glad I got that off my chest. Like, I know a
now
lot.
It's clear.
Yeah, like, now I know. I just had to tell you that, whatever. I've been pining away for you, or whatever the case may be. But I think that's
what's one thing you would do right now, like today, if you knew you would be successful at it?
I'd be a singer. I love singing.
Yeah?
I love singing. I just have a terrible voice. Okay, what's a song? You want to lose every listener we have? I'm game.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high.
I really think you could succeed. There was that guy that went on like one of those singing shows or whatever, and he totally like flopped, and then like he became like an internet sensation.
Oh, because he had such a terrible,
Yeah.
See,
you would succeed. You didn't say you wanted to succeed at being a fantastic singer. You just said you wanted to succeed at singing.
But I'm actually writing a song about my bad voice. I'm almost done.
I look forward to that on episode 90 of Chit Chat and Chill.
Well, I'll turn up the volume.
I think if I knew like I would be completely successful, like, and I would move to Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't have my citizenship there right now, and so that's what's really holding me back.
But if you're done with the citizen, they don't honor?
No.
Like, I know in Poland...
he had to denounce his Italian citizenship to be a U.S. citizen. And if you're listening in Italy right now and you have any kind of pull, can you just, like, rearrange that? I have to go through my mother's side of the family and my grandfather and stuff like that. So
then I might actually have to finally visit Italy.
It's a fantastic place. I jokingly say, like, how is it that my father looked at Piacenza and was like, you know what? I want to give up this water and this mountain and this beautiful scenery and move to Worcester, Massachusetts. If you're from Worcester, I'm from Worcester too. But if you've been to Piacenza, Italy, it's far more beautiful. But of course, he grew up in the 30s. And so, the 30s in Italy and Germany, and it wasn't such a fantastical place. It's much
There were
more
some things
beautiful.
going on
Yeah,
politically.
the grass is always greener in other places, but yeah, there was a lot of political things going on. Go back to the history books before they rewrite them and and read about
I know when my mom came
World War
over,
II.
when my mom came over, she heard all these things like America, the streets are paved with gold. And meanwhile, there was like 6 kids living in a studio apartment in like the Bronx.
Paved with gold wrappers on the ground.
Who knows? But it was funny.
Trash.
Yeah. She actually had to like climb through the window to get in. It was just
I mean,
strange.
I've traveled a lot, and I do believe that America is the best country in the world. Like, I have freedom to talk to people about Jesus. I just this morning I had a conversation, and I'm not oppressed in any sort of way, and I'm able to hopefully lead that person to Jesus, and there's a lot of opportunities here, and so I think that people should travel other countries and see. And I think Italy is totally beautiful, but their politics, maybe not a super fan of. But I would love to go live there for a couple of years. Like, so if I knew that like my business would still be successful and the trip would be successful with my family and everything like that, that's what I would do right now.
That's cool.
But
Now,
God, it's not in God's design right this second. He's got other plans for me. So I'm patiently waiting, because when you ask God for patience, the wonderful thing is He doesn't give you patience. He gives you opportunities to be patient. Yes. Don't ever ask Him for patience. Trust me.
yeah, then you,
Not fantastic.
yeah, I've witnessed that personally. Yes.
It's
There
not-
are all these new people in your life that require a whole lot of patience to deal
Yes,
with.
it's not fantastic. Like, it's not the way He chooses to give you lessons. Sometimes
No,
it's not fantastic.
yeah, ask for like, oh, what are ways that I could save all my money or something, or all the great ways or something. I don't know.
Yeah, ask better questions, get better answers.
Exactly. Now, do you know of anybody who like is they're trying to go after something but they're hesitant?
Oh, every single client I have. Every single client I have, I'm constantly coaching them and building them up in their confidence and their relationship with money and their fear of failure. Like, people think like, oh, she's a financial coach. She's going to teach them just how to budget, whatever. No, I mean, yes, I will teach you financial tools, but a lot of it is the psychology of money, the psychology behind the reason why people don't accumulate money. A lot of it is what's holding people back is always them.
Yeah.
And so I'm always working with people on their fear of failure and their fear of success, which people don't even realize they have a fear of success.
Yeah.
It's like counterintuitive. Well, no, I want to succeed. Well, you're doing everything to not succeed, because ultimately success means that maybe you'll lose friends, and people don't want to lose friends, or that maybe your family won't like you as much. Like, there's a lot of things behind. I know growing up, my mother would say like, oh, well, they have a lot of money. They're snobs. They're this, that. And if you think if you get a lot of money, that your parents are going to think less of you, you sabotage yourself.
Well, I think with success comes responsibility. And I think a lot of people don't want that. They like that fallback. I think a lot of people, they develop identities in their struggles. And even when there's a solution to the struggle, they rather hold on to the struggle than just grasp at the solution, because it makes them feel important.
Thin, but I don't want to exercise and eat right. I want to have a lot of money, but I don't want to stop shopping on Amazon every day. Like, yeah, I mean, they have conflicting values is what I call it.
Yeah.
And until you change the value system, it's really hard to accumulate prosperity in whatever area that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But the fear of failure, I coach on that. Every single client has a fear of failure in one way or another, and it prevents them from getting ahead financially all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing you got to realize, like, just look at kids. I mean, they're just anything they want to be. They want to be Spider-Man or a police officer, and they're more than happy to go and fall flat on their face, and they just get up and, walk it off, and then they're on to their next adventure and whatever. And they have all these dreams, and they have no resources. They have no education, no money.
They can't even feed themselves.
They can't even feed themselves. And then when you get to the point where people are educated and have money and can actually feed themselves, their goals actually diminish and not increase, which makes no sense. Like, you have more resources at your disposal to, you're still laughing at me for something.
No, I'm laughing inside because I just think of my kids now that are adults in their 20s, and they're like, oh, I just wish somebody would like pay my bills and cook for me and like, I wouldn't have to pay anything and I could just like live and enjoy my life. I'm like, oh, like when you were 16 and you wanted to like move out on your own and like go be an adult. When you were 16 and I paid for the roof over your head and cooked your meals and everything else, like then they're like, yeah, then. But I tell people all the time, like, you don't have a fear of failure when you're a kid, or else you would still be crawling through life. Because think about it this way, like a baby crawls, right? And then they start to like hold on to like a coffee table, whatever, and they get up and then they fall on their butt. And thank God for diapers, right? Because that cushions so many bottoms. But then what do? They try again and they try again and they try again. And now, unless you have some sort of disability or deformity, we're walking.
Yeah.
We're all walking. So our fear of failure, it wasn't like we fell and we were like, oh, well, I guess I'm just not good at walking. We'll just crawl for the rest of our lives. Like,
but I mean, it's so silly, but it's so true. And then it's like, as we get older and more able, we give it up. Or I think we listen to others more. I think too many people determine what they should do or what they can do based on what other people say, which is terrible because honestly, nobody knows your capabilities unlike yourself. And I think even you don't know your own capabilities. Once you put your mind to something and do it, I think most people surprise themselves at what they can overcome. I know I've had like dreams and in my head, I'm like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. And then as I get into it, I realize like, oh my God, like I have all these things coming at me that are out of left field. And now I have to deal with this and now I have to deal with that. But it just makes me work harder and stay focused and,
And nobody sees the failures. They only see the success.
No, yeah.
Right? But I mean, it's not that like, I can't think of anybody that hasn't had like one thing that they're successful about, but people do focus a lot on the failures. And I think life just beats them down. So they're like, yeah, well, I tried this and I failed. And I talk to people that want to start their business and like, well, I tried to do this and I failed. And I tried to do this and I failed. And I tried to do this and I failed. And I'm like, well, you weren't working with a coach before that can help you. Like, I help a lot of people. Like, and if they were going to have 100 failures doing it on their own, maybe now they're only going to have 10. I can't like completely prevent them from having a failure. But you just didn't, maybe you just didn't go about it the right way. And now you need to go about it a different way. Or maybe you didn't ask God for help. Like,
the thing
for me, when I don't ask God for help, is so much more difficult. Like,
the thing that I find, which is kind of along the same lines, like when I'm working with a design client, when I first meet with them, I have to give them this caveat because I guess most designers aren't like this, where if they've ever worked with a designer and they said anything negative about their design, the designer would fly off the handle like, you don't know what you're talking about and you don't know good design and whatever. And then they get very like gun shy. And that's one thing that I say when I first meet somebody right off the bat. I said, if you see something and you don't like it, be as honest as possible. Even if it's like, that's grotesque. I hate everything about it. I didn't tell you, but every time I see yellow, I want to throw up, whatever. But
because you have to love it. It's your design.
It's you. Yeah. Like in the end, I want them to love, and it's one of those that I'm pretty intuitive. So I usually am pretty good at that, but I like giving people the freedom to just be honest. And the more honest you are, the quicker we're going to get to where you want to be. And I think too many people settle for mediocrity because they don't want to ruffle feathers.
Yeah. Or they're, in that case, it's not that you failed if you put yellow in there. That's not a failure. It's just the client didn't want yellow or something like that. So you don't have to take it so personally. We got to stop.
What? No.
I know. There's a little light in the studio that tells us that we need to stop. And just like the lights on my dashboard of my truck that's kind of old, where I'm going to put electrical tape on just so I don't see them anymore. I'm going to wrap that light in electrical tape. We'll just keep talking forever.
We'll be here till like next Tuesday, right?
Our next topic is going to be a lot of fun, though, because it's actually, they talk about this in the Bible. Are you enabling somebody or are you supporting them? Like there's a distinction, but most people don't know the difference.
Yeah. And I think there's so many people that think they're supporting and in fact they're just enabling.
Yeah.
Or
parents, it's a hard one for us.
Yeah. I think that's what I was going to say, especially when it comes to parents and children or loved ones.
So hard.
When you see somebody go down a road that you don't want to see them go down, and sometimes they have to just, like I said, go up in flames or whatever,
Yeah, sometimes in order to bounce from the bottom, you got to hit the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
No, yeah.
We're going to talk about that next time.
Yeah, but until then, we're so glad you joined us. We always love chatting. And remember, never stop laughing.
And never stop learning. We'll see you soon.